Quick audio test one. Quick audio test one. Cool. Alrighty, welcome to NycosRPG. I am Jonathan Albin. I am the Games Master, and today we are restarting what we've been trying to do for the last few months, and that is the Nykos roleplay experience utilizing Twitch. And today I figured we'd add in the aspect of roleplay roulette, simply because that way, if we have nothing else to do, we can spin the wheel and I can start to tell the story, and as players wander by, they may want to join us and we can take off. I want to thank you if you're watching me right from the beginning. If you come into this and you watch the first couple of minutes of the preview or whatever, the way it works basically is you enter the chat, give me some, high sign that you're available to play, and until we establish the names of the three characters that are in the story to start with, we will just operate with them as blinds, and then once players start to establish a rapport with them, then we will get going. I apologize for the fuzziness of my camera. Part of it is a vibration on my desk that I haven't figured out how to resolve yet. And so I may or may not have challenges with it all day, but I hope we do okay with it. The background on myself as a game master is that I've been doing the duties of a storyteller and games master going all the way back to the Dark Ages, before private computers were even a thing, before I know makes me really old to most of you. Yes, I lived in the Dark Ages before there was even Usenet, and there were matter of fact, I learned to program a computer after I learned to play Dungeons and Dragons by almost 3 years. So I was a freshman in high school before we actually had a computer on site. And it was not even a computer on our site. University of Arizona shared with the Phoenix school districts the ability to use their computer via teletype units. They were not proper computers, although they did have paper tape readers, and we could actually pump data into or our little tiny programs into their monstrous machine and have it do rudimentary things. This is before the language BASIC had developed. It was before, the two languages I learned to program in way back then are dinosaurs, but I learned to program in Fortran and Pascal, which of course are so far gone now as to be, antiques. I might as well be in a museum. And of course, I remember absolutely nothing about that programming. And of course, once we learned how to use BASIC, which was, almost 3 years later, we were actually up and running. And I owned my first computer when I was newly married. So that tells you it was down the road, even a little further before computers became something you could own in your house. First one I owned was a Sinclair 2000, and it had 2000 bits. It had 2K of memory is all it had. So that tells you something. Anyway, I learned roleplay games from Dave Arneson. That name may or may not ring a bell. Dave Arneson was one of the two guys that published Dungeons and Dragons in 1974, and in the I believe it was the winter of 1973, he was visiting his relatives in Colorado, and we played Dungeons and Dragons at the Mile High Games Club in off of Mission Viejo. I remember the street in Aurora, Colorado. It was Mission Viejo Boulevard and Indian School. No, Alameda. Alameda was the other street. So that's kind of giving you a geography of where it was. Anyway, we played Dungeons and Dragons that day because the gentleman who had normally been like the alpha of the club, so to speak, was the keeper of the miniatures, and we were playing at the time a game called Mustangs and Messerschmitts on a weekly basis. And I don't imagine you've heard of that game because it's so far gone historically as to be non-existent, but it was World War II air-to-air combat, basically dogfights between various aircraft stemming from World War II. And so really not much different than today if you compared it to, say,